The long-awaited Lilo and Stitch live action has finally hit theaters, and it's a total hit, bringing to life what was once just an animated classic. But did you know that this new Disney production is packed with details, Easter eggs, and references that most people completely overlooked? And we're not kidding when we say that. On Jumba's computer, we actually see a few experiments that are just like Stitch. One of them is Experiment 624, also known as Angel. She's a female version of Stitch and has the power to make someone evil again through her singing, or even reverse corruption and bring them back to the good side. How do we know this? Well, this movie doesn't really go into it, but Angel didn't originate here. She was first introduced in the Lilo and Stitch animated series, where the main characters go around hunting down other experiments created by Jumba. Angel even becomes Stitch's love interest. She also appears in the final animated movie in the franchise, Leroy and Stitch. In other words, she's a pretty major character, and no surprise she got a shout out in the live action. Could this amazing Easter egg be a sign that Angel will show up in a sequel? We'll just have to wait and see. But for now, let's enjoy finding out what the 15 hidden secrets in Lilo and Stitch really are. So go grab your Hawaiian shaved ice and ride this wave with us, because it's time for another episode of Cinewave. Believe it or not, Angel isn't the only little monster Jumba created who shows up here. In the same scene where she pops up on the monitor, we can also spot another one of Jumba's creations, Experiment 625, also known as Reuben. He's another character who appeared mainly in Lilo and Stitch the series. He has the same powers as Stitch and was made for the same purpose as the blue alien, but there's one huge difference. Reuben is super lazy and loves to eat. Big time. That's basically why he's seen as a failed experiment. He's kind of like Stitch's bargain bin version. Looks like the team behind the remake really did their homework on the rest of the franchise, huh? As you've probably noticed, this movie is packed with hidden Easter eggs, but did you know the original animated version actually had some stuff that the new film completely left out? We're talking about entire characters who played key roles in the 2002 version. We're specifically talking about Captain Gantu, one of the main villains in the original Lilo and Stitch. He's a shark-like alien tasked with capturing all of Jumba's creations, obviously leading him to chase after Stitch. Unfortunately, he was completely cut from the remake. One of the biggest reasons? Budget. Since the live action was originally meant to premiere directly on Disney+, it had a much smaller production budget compared to theatrical films. And having a full CGI shark man in the story would have required a lot of money and time to get the effects right. Totally out of the question. Plus, the new movie chose to focus more on the emotional family drama and the bond between Lilo and her sister Nani, so that villain would have taken up valuable screen time that they decided to give entirely to the girls instead. What do you think about that pretty bold change? Speaking of Captain Gantu, he's not the only alien with animal-like features. In fact, a bunch of aliens shown in the opening scene seem inspired by different animals. We see squid, octopus, sea lions, armadillos, hippos, reptiles, and more. They all come from different planets, and it's likely that each animal species evolved to become the dominant one instead of humans. If you think about it, any other Earth species could have ended up in our place if humans had gone extinct or never existed. And the creators of Lilo and Stitch clearly leaned into that idea. Also, at the beginning of the movie, Stitch's creator explains all the awesome abilities his experiment has. He's insanely strong and super smart, but one curious thing he mentions is that Stitch is supposed to be ultra resistant. Then we see a scene where lasers hit him, and all it does is make him laugh because it tickles. Sounds about right, right? But then later on, a government agent manages to yank out one of Stitch's hairs using a regular old pair of tweezers, and Stitch actually yelps in pain. How can regular tweezers hurt a creature that's immune to laser blasts? Looks like we just found ourselves a little plot hole. If you agree, drop a hashtag plot hole in the comments. One recurring gag in the original movie is about a chubby, sunburned tourist who's always trying to enjoy an ice cream, only to have it knocked out of his hand for some crazy reason every single time. And guess what? That joke made its way into the live action too, but with a few small changes. In the new version, he's not a tourist anymore, he's a local Hawaiian who most likely lives on the island where the story takes place. On top of that, the guy has hair now, and his skin isn't nearly as sunburned. Makes sense, right? If he lives in Hawaii, he's probably used to wearing sunscreen, and also his skin doesn't burn as easily as the pale tourist in the cartoon version. Another difference is that he's no longer holding a regular ice cream cone, now it's a shaved ice. And there's a reason for that change. Shaved ice is way more popular in Hawaii than traditional ice cream. At one point, Stitch turns on the TV and ends up watching a scene from a real movie, Earth vs. the Spiders from 1958. Which is about a giant spider terrorizing a city, basically Stitch's dream scenario. And fun fact, that exact same movie appears in the original animated version too. This is one of those awesome moments where the remake stayed super faithful to the source material. Gotta love it when that happens, right? In a beach scene with Lilo and Stitch, you can see a bunch of people surfing, but one of them stands out for a hilarious reason. They're surfing with a dog, a French bulldog to be exact. And the coolest part? That guy is actually a real-life surfer named Landon, who's famous for teaching people how to surf with their pets. He makes a special cameo in the movie, which is such a fun way to add a little real-world reference to the story. There's a constellation painted on the ceiling of Lilo's house, and in case you didn't recognize it, that constellation actually exists in real life. It's called Orion, and it's one of the most famous constellations in astronomy. It's even shown or referenced in a bunch of other movies too. Since she's kind of weird and quirky, Lilo gets bullied by some of her classmates. Her main bully is Myrtle, both in the 2000s animated version and in the new remake. But there are a few key differences between the two versions of this character. The original Myrtle has bright red hair and wears thick round glasses. In the new version though, she doesn't wear glasses and she no longer has that reddish hair. Pretty wild, huh? And if you're into learning fun facts like these about your favorite movies and cartoons, why not hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on our videos? One of Myrtle's most unforgettable scenes is when Lilo finally snaps after putting up with her lame teasing for too long. In the original, our main girl jumps right on top of the bully in the middle of a hula class and just starts throwing punches. In the remake though, it all goes down during an important performance. And what little Lilo does this time is shove Myrtle off the stage, which honestly is even more intense since Myrtle could have gotten seriously hurt from that fall. So yeah, maybe think twice before messing with Lilo. Even though some parts of the original story were inevitably cut from the remake due to time constraints, the movie still managed to sneak in a few references. For example, Lilo tells her alien buddy that her sister has a bunch of trophies from her school days. Do we ever see them? Nope. But she's clearly talking about the trophies we see in Nani's room in the original animated film. So yeah, that's a reference in the most classic sense of the word. The production probably didn't have time to show the trophies while focusing on other parts of the story, but it's cool that they at least got mentioned. Still on the topic of differences between the remake and the original, even the way Lilo and Stitch first meet has a small twist that actually changes everything. In the 2002 animated film, Nani hears Lilo talking to a friend and wishing on a shooting star, which is actually Stitch's spaceship crashing to Earth, because she's feeling super lonely. That makes Nani feel sad for her little sister, so she decides to take her to the animal shelter to adopt a dog. But in the live-action version, it plays out differently. Lilo already visits the shelter regularly just to hang out with the animals. She isn't brought there by her sister to adopt a pet, she just stops by, and that's when she randomly stumbles upon the alien. You've definitely heard the word Ohana. This movie made it famous, and as we all know, Ohana means family. But here's something most people don't realize. The family in Ohana goes way beyond just blood relatives. It represents a deep sense of community, belonging, mutual support, and shared responsibility. It includes close friends, neighbors, co-workers, and basically anyone you share a special bond with, even if you don't live under the same roof. That's why even Lilo's neighbor is considered part of her Ohana. So tell us, do you have someone who isn't technically family, but you totally consider part of your Ohana? One of the first things Stitch does after crash landing on Earth is crash, literally, into a wedding ceremony. And of course there's music playing in the background because it's a wedding. That song? Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars. The reason that song shows up isn't just because it's a total bop and Bruno Mars is insanely talented. It's also because he worked on the remake of an Elvis Presley classic that originally played in the 2002 film and now appears in the live-action version, Burning Love. He was chosen not only for his talent but because of his Hawaiian heritage. That track has a strong cultural connection to Hawaii. And fun fact, when Bruno was a kid, he used to perform as an Elvis impersonator. So yeah, there were plenty of reasons that made him the perfect choice for this tribute. The video's almost over, but don't worry, we've got 2 more videos lined up for you so you don't miss the fun. Just click on one of them and keep hanging out with us. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.